Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wist. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Henry Loevner and Steve Kanter. Please tell my audience what your movie, The End of Us, is all about.
Sure, yeah. It's a romantic comedy at South by Southwest, and it is about a young couple that breaks up on the eve of the coronavirus lockdowns in Los Angeles in March of 2020. Because the stay-at-home order is issued, they get stuck living together and have to work out their issues. It's very loosely inspired by some true events. Our lead actor was going through a similar experience at the time, so we hope people enjoy it.
It's very funny, and you know, obviously it's got the contemporary angle. You know, here we are, we live in the Corona era. That's what I call it. Tell me about some of the unique COVID challenges to making the movie.
Sure. Well, certainly we started shooting in May, and so obviously we were still one of the issues. Honestly, was just like how much the news and sort of like the state of the lockdown was changing on a day-to-day basis. How much sort of information was coming in every day, and so. Of course, a huge concern for us was like, if we're actually going to endeavor to make a feature film, how are we going to feasibly do this in a safe way, abiding by COVID protocol? And so we all, the three of us, Henry, myself, Claudia, our producer, and then the two actors, Ben Coleman, Ellie Vingiano, we all quarantined, isolated before all moving into an Airbnb together. And the idea was like our principal photography, the relatively 2 weeks of shooting, maybe a little bit less. No one leaves. We shoot everything there. We all chip in, all of our food, everything. Just we sort of set it up so that we just had our bubble. And so that was certainly a big one. What were other challenges? I mean, the other challenges, of course, were the costs of just having so few people to make the movie. We were wearing a lot of hats. Which there's a lot of freedom to that, which is great, and you can move pretty fast. But we were definitely pretty sore by the end of this experience, physically speaking.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously, I would say I'm guessing that the biggest influence was coronavirus. But tell me about some of your all-time favorite funny movies that might have seeped through the pores.
Well, we in fact. A couple of days before we started shooting, we rewatched one of our favorite comedies, which is a movie called The Overnight, which is directed by Patrick Bryce. And we actually had the good fortune to talk with him a few days ago about the film. He moderated a Q&A that we did, and we love that movie. I mean, it's really small. It's four actors essentially in a house, and we're just like very inspired by that kind of contained sort of chamber piece comedy. What can you get out of just a few fantastic performances and a good story? So we look to a lot of the kind of like Duplass style mumblecore comedies, but we also are huge fans of like Noah Baumbach, that kind of thing. So
of course, Apatow too.
Sure.
We've realized in the process of making this movie that we really respond to these sort of the for lack of a better term, schmuck man-child character that the schlemiel.
Beautiful. So you guys co-directed this project. Tell me about sharing the responsibility.
Well, we're very lucky to have we have very similar sensibilities creatively, and pretty similar sort of technical backgrounds. So because this was such a small crew, I mean, really just the three of us, we had to trade off holding the camera, holding the boom, figure out. Even during the editing process, we were splitting up the editing into two pieces. And so, again, we have the luxury of having similar tastes, but not an easy feat for anybody, especially when it's like that physically grueling to be literally handing off the camera back and forth and moving props around and that kind of stuff.
In some ways, really, like, because there was just so much to do, I think it was like, there was really not much time to kind of quabble or deliberate over it. And luckily, as Henry mentioned, like the most important thing I think for us, just like approaching it as directors, was like, we just had so many conversations about style and tone, and just knowing that, again, just like having a shared taste and really relying on that and putting faith into that when we were sort of making quick decisions and sort of, iterating as the shoot was going along.
All right, so I'm sure you guys learned a lot about this unique production or unique circumstances for production. What were the applicable lessons for creating this movie that you'll apply for the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we really were very happy that like we took on this sort of iterative filmmaking style where we had a script down, but we had to write it relatively quickly, and so the best way to approach it was to try to shoot everything in order, and that really worked to our advantage. The actors could kind of find the characters as we went along. We could make story adjustments. If somebody referenced something, made a joke, for example, in the first couple of scenes, they could do a callback 10 scenes later. And it's just like a much more organic way to tell the story. And it also meant that we could, shoot additional scenes, make changes to the story if we felt like something wasn't working or we wanted to shift the focus. So I think moving forward, I mean, that's something that we'd love to continue doing.
It was a 2-week shoot, you said, or just under 2 weeks?
Yeah. So our initial, like the main sort of run of it inside the Airbnb, the main location was about 10 days. And then, we had some scattered sort of exterior shots, they're walking socially distant outside in the park and on the phone. And so in total, probably about 3 weeks of shooting.
And how many people were in the crew again?
Well, you're me, Steven, and Claudia, our producer, who she and I are also dating. So the three of us were part of a pandemic bubble, and it was just the three of us. And then every now and again, we might ask one of the actors to like hold a boom if literally Steve and I are holding cameras and Claudia is like doing something with a prop or whatever. So
and fortunately too, our two actors, Ali Vingiano, Ben Coleman, they're both they've produced videos before. They certainly are not new to the process of putting a lavalier mic on themselves. You know what I mean? So that it was very helpful that they kind of knew at least how to produce.
Okay. And what are your thoughts on the Corona Film Festival circuit?
It's interesting. I mean, doing a virtual festival, this is our first time at South by Southwest, and we're, unbelievably excited about it. It's been an interesting experience. I think it really requires you to be much more proactive. The biggest benefit, of course, of a film festival is getting the opportunity to meet other filmmakers and engage with the audience and just meeting people. And you can't be passive if you're going to be doing that virtually. You have to reach out to people. You have to be, getting into the chat rooms and the Zoom conferences and stuff like that. So that for us has been the big takeaway.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Can you, do you guys have any ideas about distribution? When can people see this movie?
Hopefully we'll have some updates on that soon. We're talking to a few distributors. So things are looking good, but as soon as possible, I hope.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you, Michael.